Hello everyone, and welcome to Mr. Lugosi's shed. I thought I'd try out a longer video and see what results I get from it, so let me know what you think at the end. It's that time of year where I try to grow things again. This year I've got some peas in a raised bed and some potatoes in a bathtub. I did have a few tomato plants, but they've died off already due to some bugs. I'm going to give them another go though, but I'm lacking plant pots to start with. I do however have a few old toilet tube rolls, and that seems like a pretty good idea. The roots shouldn't get bound and I'll be able to direct plant them into the soil once they've grown a bit, because the cardboard should biodegrade, right? Having them loose seems like a pretty bad idea because the cats will just knock them over, so I'm thinking I'll make a little tray to hold 9 or so of them. And what better wood to use than pallet wood, because I have a lot of it and it's free. The first thing to do is mill down this rough board into something that looks a little less rustic and a little more useful. The first cut is to remove the worst of the rough edge, the second is to give us a nice parallel edge to work from. Then I cut 2 boards that are the height of the tray. Once I have those cuts, I cut the width down again. The first pass is to remove the worst, and the second is to bring it close to the final dimensions, and the final pass to the thickness that I want. If you're thinking that a planer or a thicknesser would be a much better tool to use for this, you'd be absolutely right. I don't have one of those yet. Maybe one day I will. They're not perfect, but they certainly look slightly less rough than they did before. Now I can mark out the lengths for each side and rough cut the size. Then I cut 45-degree angles on the end of each board. I then measure the final length of each board and creep up on it from the other side. There's no reason for switching sides of the blade I'm working on, it just seemed easier for where the camera was set up. One of the downsides of using pallet wood for projects is that it has this habit of not cutting cleanly. At least I think that's what the cause of this is, rather than it being the blade, which is a new blade that's nice and sharp. I've tried using painter's tape, but I don't think that actually makes any bit of difference at all. The next step is to give all the pieces a nice quick sand, just to knock off any sharp corners or splinters or tear out from the table saw. No one really wants to watch someone sitting there sanding, so we'll just fast forward through this part. Now they're all sanded, we can lay them out to see how it goes together. I really love this little belt clamp. It's really simple, but it works well. Once everything's all lined up where I want it to be, go through gluing both sides of all the edges. I'm sure I shouldn't use my finger for spreading glue, and there are definitely better things out there for doing it, but my fingers are always the hand, so I go with them. Once all the edges are glued and there's a little bit of tension in the belt clamp, I go through just making sure everything is in place where it needs to be. Just a quick final check to make sure that the box is actually square, or at least somewhere near square, and not forgetting to wipe off any excess glue either. Some hours later, and it's ready to come out of the clamps. Looks alright. There are a few corners that are a little bit off, but I can hide those with a quick sand. I found a board that fits perfectly, so I'll just take a little section of this. I could call this proof that I can cut straight and to a line using a handsaw, but I've cut about 10 minutes of this video sanding and finagling to get this piece to fit. Luckily, video editing makes it look like it was to fit first time. As it's pretty much a press fit, just a little bit of glue should hold it in place. I had thought about adding some tacks or some nails, but again, it's good enough without. It's just a small garden tray, it doesn't need to be fancy. After leaving it overnight for the glue to dry, it looks pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with how it's turned out. Now just to check that 9 rolls will actually fit in it quite snugly. Which they do. That should stop the cats from being able to knock over individual rolls. I'd previously mixed up some multi-purpose compost and some vermiculite for these seeds. I'll just fill up each tube about 2/3 of the way. At this point you're probably wondering why I haven't finished the wood with an oil or a varnish, because surely cardboard will let the moisture straight through and the wood will swell and warp. I'm wondering the exact same thing. I should have oiled this, as that's exactly what happened. It's still together, but it's certainly trying to not be. I then went through adding 2 seeds to each tube, and once they start growing, I'll pinch off the weakest of the 2 and just focus on the strongest. Here we are a few weeks later, and you can see that the joins are opening up where the wood has swelled and tried to pull the glue apart. It's still holding itself together, but it obviously doesn't look quite as nice as when we started. The toilet roll tubes as well, from being watered, have built up a small amount of mould, but I don't think that's too much to worry about. The little tomatoes are growing quite nicely as well. And that's it, my quick and simple tray for tomato seedlings. Keep safe, and I hope to see you soon.